Okay, most of you Zoom addicted Rotarians know me all too well, and have heard me extol the benefits of Rotakids at conferences and assemblies, and some of you even at club meetings. The change of club image, the joy of encouraging young people, the feeling of being in touch with your community, having young people to help us deliver service and help the environment, and so much more. Plus the byproducts, the recruitment of teachers, parents and grandparents as members, and knowing that you have planted the seed in hundreds of potential members for the future. So I've done my bit as the Rotakids sort of sales department. Tonight, thanks to District Governor Heather, and at your request at the last meeting, it's all about the how, the why, the where, and the when of running a Rotakids club, depending on the questions you ask. And we have here tonight head teachers, parents, Rotarians who have been and are involved in setting up and in running school-age Rotary clubs that can revitalise our Rotary clubs. I will ask each of them to introduce themselves in turn and to speak for 1 or 2 minutes. And I think if I run through the list and then if the speakers just follow each other, if you can remember who you're coming after, and then we'll do a Q&A immediately after that. So the first speaker I'd like to introduce is Anne Forster, who is the RIBI Rotakids Committee Rep for Scotland and Ireland. I think most of you know Anne, and she's somewhere there.
Yep, I'm here. Yes, I now, believe it or not, I only have Scotland. I don't have Ireland as well, which is rather good. And of course, Rotakids is my passion. I first heard about Rotakids in 2006. I downloaded info from the RIB website, and shortly afterwards, the info was taken off the site. A couple of years later, as a member of Old Meldrum Rotary, I set up Rotakids. To summarise, I did a presentation in 2008 to a number of local head teachers who had expressed interest. They all liked the idea, but only one, for a variety of different reasons, immediately says, yes, we'll go for it. It was Tarva School. Ideas for how Rotakids would work came a lot from the school. It was a very much a partnership working, and Tarva's Rotakids is still very active. Rotakids has grown steadily over the years. There are now currently 258 active clubs across Rotary in Great Britain and Ireland. District 1190 in North of England is 53, and we come second with 47. Between us, we have nearly 62.5% of Rotakids in our IBI. This growth has been steady until COVID set in. A huge benefit from Rotakids is that they help to improve Rotary's image in our communities. Good partnership working, good for the schools, so go for it.
Thank you very much, Anne. Can I now introduce Dawn Mackenzie, who's the head teacher at Brora and Helmsdale schools.
Found my unmute button. Hi everybody, lovely to be part of this tonight. Thank you very much for inviting me along. We've been in Rotakids, I think 7 years now, Alistair, but I'm not 100% because my memory is definitely on the way. Is it 8? All right, okay, well done. So we love it in school. Alistair got us to take part to start with, and it's just gone on and on in school, and we've really enjoyed it. The pupils love the whole scripted meetings, the applying for jobs, the being a team together. We've kept going with some of our local things that we do, and we sort of interlink, because we've always done well, not always, but we've done the Macmillan Coffee Morning in school before we started doing that, so we make it like a joint effort now, and we emphasize a lot of the things that we do, that we're doing local things, that we're doing things that are much more global. The whole intergenerational aspect of it is a really good thing. Pupils love it, and it's a fresh face, so they're not having to look at me or their class teacher all the time. And that's been really good, and it's great to have new enthusiasm in the school as well. Having people out with, which even if we have to have it online just now, it's something. So it does, revitalising is exactly what it does for us in school as well. Having other people in about, and developing their understanding of others out with their own little circle, because it is primary school, and being a whole team together. So we've absolutely loved it in school, and I would 100% recommend it to everybody. Okay.
Thank you, Dawn. Simon Scott, who's the head teacher at Golspie and Rogart schools and is now a Rotarian.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. My schools are near Dawn, so it's nice to see Dawn. Dawn, I see you're still at school, though. But I'm at home. There you go. Anyway, so I'm Golspie Primary and Rogart Primary, and Golspie is 100 children, and Rogart is just 27 children. Rotakids, what it has done for us, and especially for children who are not terribly confident, the emerging leaders that we've had who've taken on or been elected to chair or secretary or treasurer have often been the children who wouldn't naturally, you would assume, be a leader somewhere. It's the children who are what we call people smart. So those who kind of have empathy and compassion, those who are not particularly competitive, as in sports teams and things like that, that have actually come forwards to take on leadership roles in this. That kind of sense of developing responsibility for our own communities, the development of citizenship. So here in Scotland, it's a great contributor towards the personal and social education curriculum in schools. So that's a good thing to convince head teachers with, by the way, because when they get inspected, one of the things that they're asked about is how does your school engage with its local community? So Rotakids gives us a great big tick there. So that's a good plus in with a head teacher. But one of the most interesting or most important things I think about our Rotary activities is actually it helps children to develop compassion and empathy towards people that they will never meet. So it's all very well doing things in your local community for people you will see, but actually some of the projects, the international projects and national projects for Rotary, are about raising funds for people you'll never see. And we still all, it's a good way to develop responsibility in young children for that. Harvest cafes, fundraising events, community beach cleans. We're a coastal community. The community cleaning events where it's not just the kids going out, but actually Rotarians come on in and help, and providing entertainment too at adult Rotary events. So, you know, school choirs and things going out there. And then we get the interest of the parents. So some of the projects, if we choose the right project, it actually sparks the interest of parents. So one of our projects locally that we've got on go at the minute, I'm international chair, I think this year, we're looking at clean birth. So we're looking at raising funds for supporting mothers in developing countries who actually catch infections from dirty water as part of the birthing process. So it's providing clean birth kits, and that's caught the imagination of younger mothers at the primary schools. So they're starting to get involved in thinking how they could do it too. So spreading, and of course what that means is a family then gets involved. So Rotary's image, and I'm not quite there yet to middle age, but Rotary's image tends to be middle age. So pulling it down through the ages into the young families. That's for us the target group. I think it's great having the kids, but actually it's the younger adults too. So those children feel supported by the parents and they get involved. So I've rambled on more than a minute, but there you go.
Thanks very much, Simon. Now she who must be a bit, sorry, Fiona, my wife, who was our youth officer when we first started this sort of stuff with Rotakids and young school Rotary clubs under any other name. Fiona.
I don't know whether I'm on or I'm not.
You're on.
I am. Oh, help. Anyway, good evening, everybody. Oh, well, thank you, Dawn and Simon as well, because from our end, it's like a partnership. And, you know, it's really just been a joy and a privilege just to come into schools and work with the young folk. And just, I think it's just the partnership of working together. And the children, for us, is just inspirational. They come up with all sorts of ideas. And I just feel just concentrating on humanitarian, environmental, and and the local community. And it's just the children getting in touch with all these things. And I just think it's just been wonderful to work with them. And so I have been a past president and a youth convener. And I think it was about 8 years ago, I started with Interact and then on to Rotakids. So thank you. That's all I wish to say. Any questions? No problem.
Thanks, Fiona. And now the last of our outside speakers, semi-outside, because Claudia McGregor is a parent of, or formerly was a parent of Rotakids, now of secondary school pupils, who became a Rotarian and is now actually our youth officer.
Yeah, I wish you a very good evening. I'm Claudia McGregor and born and grew up in the southern part of Germany. And quite early, I developed a love to children, always wanted to do something with them. And in Germany, I became and studied an educator. So I was working for over 15 years in a home for children. And yeah, then eventually I met my husband and got married, moved over to Scotland in 2004. And since 2005, I'm here in Baroda, and somehow Alistair's and my way crossed, probably through church, I can't remember. And yeah, quite soon he had his hands on me and wanted to grab me and
rephrase that.
Okay, I'm German, sorry. And wanted me to join Rotary, but I was very hesitant, I must say, because I was always serving the community already and I really didn't see the need. But I think after 3 years, you know, Alistair managed. And so I'm over 3 years now member of the East Sutherland Rotary Club. And I never regret it, I must say. In the meanwhile, I have 2 children of my own. Alistair mentioned they're now in high school, and my children are quite quiet. So when you're normally in P6 or 7, when it's a composite class, or P7, you are automatically here a Rotakid. And but both my children were very quiet, and I really did not know that they were in Rotakid clubs. So. And I must say, I noticed it still that some parents don't know that either. So I think we have to spread the word a little bit, but that's perhaps more than 2 questions and whatnot. Yeah, and as Alistair said, since this year, I'm the youth officer because the previous year's youth officer is now our current president. And so I like going into our 7 Rotakids clubs. But at the moment, of course, due to the pandemic, we are not able to do that. And we have 2 Interact clubs as well. That's for the high school. I think at the moment, that's perhaps the main thing. And then I'm open to questions.
Okay, thanks very much, Claudia. Now, I'm not quite sure how we take questions, Heather. Do they ask them to you and you field them, or?
Well, we've got quite a lot of people on the call tonight. So ideally, if people could put their electronic hand up, which they find in the reactions. Alternatively, then do wave at me, but I may not see you, so bear with me. So the safest way is to put an electronic hand up. If you're able to do that. If you're not sure how to do that, put a message in the chat and I'll help you with that. So yes, are we open to questions just now then, Alistair? Thanks so much to the speakers. That was so interesting and helpful. Really, the enthusiasm and inspiration is coming through, which is exactly what we want, isn't it? So thanks again to everybody. That was great.
My guess is one of the questions that probably a lot of clubs that are thinking about it have in mind will be more towards the head teachers, because I think there's a hesitancy that or a belief that teachers are overworked, and I certainly go along with that, but that they will think that we are trying to give them something else to do. So maybe if I start with that as a question to Dawn and Simon, can you assure people that Rotakids does not give you extra work, but actually supports you in achieving the curriculum for excellence?
I totally agree, because the structure's already there, so the teachers aren't having to look about what to do, and it fits in with everything they do in school. So it's actually extra support. It's not extra work at all.
Great.
And what you end up realizing is that actually we don't lead it. We often facilitate things, but it's actually the children, once they're into it and into the structure, it's the children, young people, that actually lead things. And quite often, because especially now in this world of connecting over IT, they'll have their own little meetings over Chromebooks, you know, outside school, where they're just and then come back and say we need X to us, which makes it dead easy for us because we don't have to give them the ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic, thanks so much. Cass got a question as well, Alistair, and then we've got another one after that as well. So Cass, do you want to fire away?
Yes, thank you very much. That was great from everybody. Thank you for sharing all your experience. I noticed, I think Simon told us the size of the schools, and whilst others were speaking, I did a little light Googling and found out the size of Dawn's schools as well. So you're all involved with quite small schools, and Claudia said that in their school, the kids were automatically enrolled in Rotakids. I wonder if anybody's got any advice for setting up a Rotakids club in a school that perhaps is larger than yours, and where the Rotakids need to be selected in some way. Be grateful for any advice on that.
I think again that maybe we could refer that to the head teachers, because it, as I understand it, because it is so tightly connected to the curriculum for excellence, we are in all 7 of the ones that we run. We have set periods on the curriculum where we go in with Rotarians to support what the young people do, because remember, it's their meeting. We're just there as facilitators and maybe to point them at things where they can get help. But in a big school, obviously we can't do, if there were 5 primary 7 classes or something like that, it'd be difficult to do that. And I would suspect that a teacher might, or a head teacher might decide it's for one of the classes as part of their curriculum, and maybe that class can then cascade it to others in the school. But Dawn, can you comment on that?
It could be one class selected, or it could be, see, my biggest class, although we're at about 100, we're down to 4 teachers, so we've got, say, 24 pupils in a class, and I think a maximum class size is about 30 on a straight class. So there's not that big a difference. I think it's really important that they're all included, and we always make a thing about that even if you're not a post holder, you're still part of the Rotakids team. But if it was an issue because you had, I don't know, like Alistair was saying, say 4 primary 7 classes, then maybe running it as a lunchtime club might be an option. But my thing then would be that you're excluding some. You know, it might be better for me, for a whole class to do it is my preferred option, but it may be easier for me to say that.
Can I just comment as well? At Tarvis, it's not a huge school, but it's certainly bigger than a rural school. There are 7 classes, and primary 6 and primary 7 are all Rotakids, The president will be in primary 7, the vice president primary 6, and the different classes do different projects. There's the odd time as a project they do all come together, like a coffee morning at the school. But generally speaking, it's just so much easier to do separate projects for separate classes. And when I started up there, the experimenting we were doing it just volunteering. The kids volunteered to come and be with me to do Rotakids, and the school just realized that wasn't working. It was so much better to have whole classes.
Thanks, Anne.
I think, sorry, can I speak? Is it okay? My camera, I don't know why everyone, but my camera has turned itself off and it won't let me come back on, which is a shame because I did my makeup especially, but there you go. But Catherine, it was Catherine, I think, asked the original question. I'm right, yeah? Yeah. Is that right? So, yes. So in my 2 schools, it works slightly differently. So we have just 2 classes at Rogot Primary School, which is made up of P5 to P7, and the whole class there, so there are about 16 of them, they are the Rotary Kids Committee, the Rotakids Committee, and they elect a chair, etc. But then they lead whole school projects because it's a much smaller school. At Golspie, which is much bigger, we just have a committee. So there are just 7 who are the Rotakids Committee, but in effect, everybody in the school is a Rotakid. So, you know, they kind of lead projects or lead classes and connect with classes. But I'm thinking at your school, Catherine, if things aren't going, if things haven't started as Rotakids, what might be a really good way in is to think of a project first, which Rotary are doing. So a local project maybe, and then from that, the success of that project might mean that you say, okay, here's what we can achieve together as a group. You know, so I'm thinking like an assembly around that, where you then might say after the, you know, you choose a project that's going to have success, you then say, okay, we can achieve this together. We're thinking of putting together Rotakids grows out of a project, rather than going in talking about Rotakids as an entity that comes in. Do you know what I mean? That just might be a way, Catherine, I don't know.
Thank you, Simon. Any more questions? Yes.
We've got lots of questions actually.
Good.
Right. Will I move on to the next one?
Yeah.
I've got Ian Fraser from Blair Gowrie next.
Thank you. I would like to find out, we've got 10 primary schools in our area, 1 senior secondary school, and I've been trying for the last 2-3 years, no more, to actually engage with the head teachers of the primary school, and I cannot get any of them to come to listen to what Rotakids can do or anything like that. It's how can Rotary, can we create a video of some description that we can present rather than me going in and talking, but something that makes them think, oh, this is a good idea. But right now I am struggling very hard to get any of them, the schools, to interact with us. We can get them to interact with a great push on the primary school quiz, but that's about it. And I've been banging my head off a brick wall just to get them to listen to me.
Ian, if I could start with an answer and then pass it probably to the teachers. I have a clip which I can send you, which is a recording of Dawn explaining to everybody, especially teachers, all the difficulties that are overcome simply by having a Rotakids club, and explaining that it's not extra work, but it's help with the work that they have to do anyway. There is a huge fear, I think, in all schools that they're going to be, everything that they're given is somebody dumping more work on them. And it's not, it honestly is not that, and both teachers have already said that. So that's one thing. The other thing is, I think your suggestion is a very good one that perhaps Anne can take to RIBI, because most of the things that we get, well, not in Rotakids because it doesn't exist in America, but an awful lot of things that we get in videos on Rotary tend to be Americanized. And if we had something like a video about Rotakids that is purely Scottish or purely at least UK based, selling the benefits to the school, it would be worth having.
It really needs to be Scottish, because our curriculum for excellence is so different from any of the other places in the United Kingdom.
Well, I'm sure we'd help you with that if you could get the funding, if that's what's needed. Any of the teachers want to comment on how to overcome resistance in schools? Dawn?
I'm wondering, would it be worth putting something to like area managers in different regions? Because when we did, remember, Alistair, when you got me to speak at the conference?
Yes.
Thank you, in Aviemore. And one of the things that came out of that, like I took 2 children with me, and they spoke at the conference, and it was tremendous. But one of the big bits of feedback from that was that there was an HMI inspector there because her husband's Rotary. Is that not right, Alistair?
That's correct.
And she then spoke to my bosses, who said that she was so impressed by it, by the whole concept of it, and that could be the way in to try and positively sell it. I mean, I'm part of some head teachers groups that I could happily put out things there and email schools.
I've presented to the 10 head teachers meeting. I've met with one of the primary schools individually, one of the good ones in our town, and took along a deputy head teacher from a senior secondary in Dundee. We've all presented, and it just, we just get no feedback at all, as if they've got more on their plate than they want. And this is going to be just something else that they have to deal with. And this is where I think we're hitting a brick wall. I could have 10 Rotakids clubs.
Is it a possibility? Sorry, I was just thinking about other ideas. Is there a possibility about speaking to the local elected members in your area, as in the local authority councillors, or the ones who are on well, there you go. That would be better. Start where you've got extra power and influence. But I was thinking more about those in the local authority, where the responsibility for education lies locally. So I think that's what Dawn's talking about. The sort of service development team in there, the education officers. But you could also speak to local politicians, because those are good connections to nurture anyway. And it's the kind of thing I could see them perhaps getting excited about, and maybe then talking to the relevant local authority officers about. I suspect it's not any one of these things, it's the whole package of them. But I mean, if there's anything on the back of this discussion that you think that we can do or support, locally or at district level, then please do let us know. I think there's a good idea there about a video, Alistair, isn't there?
I think that would be a good idea. And please remember, when COVID's out of the way, I and others are very happy to travel down and help you if you can set up a meeting and start. Just to say, we started with one Rotakids club, and the lady in question has been one of the speakers, and it was so good for her school that she told everybody in her cluster, and then we got a snowstorm of Rotakids, because every head teacher in Sutherland wanted a Rotakids club. And once you get in one, it will spread.
And I wonder, Ian, if you could do it by stealth. So I mentioned there about getting a Rotakids group going. If there is some kind of local project that will benefit one individual particular school community, not just the school community directly. I wonder if you could get a project that you're inviting young people to be part of, and then Rotakids grows out of that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're kind of having a Rotakids group, but without any kids in to start with.
Yeah. I work with the Dundee Guildry as well, and they have a magnificent programme where we give each a primary school £200, and they have to come up with a business project. They develop this, they create job applications, they do fundraising, they do everything. And I did this through the Guildry. I went to Blairgowrie Rotary. They said, yes, let's do it locally. I went to the head teachers and said, we're going to give you money. We want you to do this, get together, and then it all goes to charity and they get business experience. The result from them, zilch. And
well, I'm really sorry to hear that, Ian. I think there are lots of things coming up on the calls that might prompt ideas. And if not, then I'm sure that Alistair would be really happy to have a chat after this evening as well. I'm just conscious that I have a traffic jam of questions here, and I want everybody to get
Can I just make a comment? Because I'm going to have to leave because I've got a Rotary meeting.
Okay, Anne. Yeah.
Just to say, once we got to set up one school, just as Alistair said, it's spread into heaps of our primary schools. But my experience has been that you need somebody with an education background to go and speak to the head teacher. I mean, I've got that, and that's what I found sort of going around on behalf of other Rotary clubs, speaking to schools and going in and chatting to the head teacher, and knowing about Higgius 4 and curriculum for excellence and all these things which not everybody knows about. On that note, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to leave. I've got my Rotary business meeting to go to.
Okay.
So my apologies.
Thanks, Anne.
Thank you, Anne.
Really appreciate all your preparation and your contribution tonight. That's fantastic. Now, so that people don't get any repetitive strain by having to, or blood loss by having to hold their hand in the air for too long, here's who I think I have questions coming up from, and I suspect this might take us to the end of the session. So I'm about to call on Judy from Inverurie, then I've got a note of Sandy from Turriff, Christine from Forres, and Sandy Ritchie, and also Christine McKenzie. So I've noted all of your questions, and I'm just going to run through them in turn, if that's all right, and we'll hopefully get to the end of those. So coming to you, Judy, and Inverurie, who couldn't get your electronic hand up.
That's okay.
Thanks for your message.
Hi there. Can you hear me okay? Because I'm trying to use an earphone tonight.
I can see you and hear you.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you very much. Well, I won't take up airspace because my question was going to be along the same vein of what we've just been talking about, and I've got some really good ideas from that, because my question was going to be how to get a foot in the door with the schools, given the fact that they're so busy and overwhelmed at the moment. But I've been so encouraged tonight hearing from the head teachers on the call, and I mean it's been quite enlightening to hear just how useful this is to the schools from the curriculum point of view. And I think what I've taken from it is that the success of a project will breed success. So I think I like the idea of finding a way, as Anne just spoke about there, is speaking to teachers on a professional level. If there's some way that they can, be encouraged to take up the opportunity if one comes their way. So I think we need to try and find ways to get these good examples that we've heard tonight heard in schools in our local areas, and I'm not quite sure how we do that, but I'll leave it at that. But just to say, I really enjoyed the chat, and I'll continue to listen. Thank you. Oh, another thing is I am actually an elected member, so that was an excellent idea about making elected members aware in the local authorities. And I also just thought that because we attend the parent council meetings, so we could help to pass on word to parent councils. Schools are also trying really hard at the moment to get parental involvement, so maybe doing it the other way around through the parents, and then they go home and talk to the kids, and then I don't know. So anyway, keep up the good work. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Judy. That was great. I thought you were going to say that was a terrible idea about elected members, so I'm mightily relieved. So coming to Sandy in Turriff, please.
Hi, how you doing? Yeah, good information tonight. I'm loving it. It's really good to know. I'm better than some of you. I'm a lot better than you, Ian Fraser. We've already got established Rotakids clubs in our primary schools. However, we're struggling at the moment to bring it to the next level. Most of the head teachers are limiting the amount of kids to 10. And I don't know why. They're saying you can only have 10 Rotakids in the club. And there are kids trying to join their local primary school Rotakids, and they're not being allowed. And I've been in touch with a lot of the head teachers, and they're saying it's curriculum versus extracurricular activities, and they can't spare the teachers. And I've offered our Rotarians to go into school and help and advise and and take part. And we are, of course, they're pulling the COVID card on us. We're not allowed in the schools at all. So the suggestion using your local elected members, I'm going to go with that one and see if we can get someone to go in and talk to the teachers and explain that there's not just a curriculum we've got to teach these kids, there's the social side of it as well. So but I've got some great ideas. Thanks very much.
Sandy, the clubs that we have, the teacher takes a back seat but is in the room, but it is the Rotarian that is running not running the meeting, but overseeing, mentoring the meeting. So that gives the teacher time. She could be marking her papers and doing things at the side while we're doing that. The one thing we do ask is that on the weeks when we don't go in, they just check that the Rotakids are keeping up pace with whatever the project is that they are due to be doing. And a lot of the things that we do, for instance, one of the things that Claudia has been brilliant with when I've been in watching is that when there's something on the school curriculum about geography or nature or something like that, we can encourage the Rotakids' next project to be around that, and therefore you can do lots of help with lots of teaching and information to augment what the school's doing. And that way, if there's only 10, well, the other 20 in the class are missing out on that opportunity. So you should be encouraging them to have the full class, but COVID will be preventing it temporarily.
Thanks. I'll move on if that's okay, Alistair. Yep. Yeah. Christine from Forest, please.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just thinking quickly, Ian, I was thinking one way that we actually succeeded in accessing more interest from primary schools was the fact that we invited them to take part in some of the competitions, like young photographer, young writer, young environmentalist. That seemed to open doors, and we find that the smaller schools, the country rural schools, are the ones that are engaging most effectively. And this past week, I was out with another Rotarian, because I'm one of the conveners, and we met outside with the children. That's the first time we've been able to do that. But my question really was to ask, how are you planning if COVID situation continues where we're not allowed to physically go in face-to-face to meet with the children? Are you planning to try and resume as much contact as possible online? And if you are, what successes are you finding?
Is that directed at all of us?
Yeah, it's just to anybody who's having success online, because I'm struggling to get schools to engage.
Well, there are strict protocols to do with any sort of online or team or Zoom type interaction with the pupils, and we have to deal with that. We're at the moment, what we're doing, generally speaking, up here is that we can deal with the teachers and suggest that some aspects of things continue throughout this period, but as soon as we are able to get back to face-to-face, then it's much easier. But we are hesitant to get involved in online interaction with young people.
Online practically, so sorry, just to come in as head teacher. Practically online is really difficult for us in school to engage with any agency that's not a school or council agency, because our IT systems are secure. So it's really hard to work out with the council's platforms, to which somebody like Alistair or Claudia would not have access. So couldn't get in to do an online meet. As somebody just mentioned there, though, we have had a couple of meetings, so very short, brief, face-to-face type things outdoors. So, you know, photographs for the paper, that kind of stuff, that has happened. I think if we're going beyond much further, we are going to have to do some kind of workaround in terms of meeting online. Just for your interest, We are, as a Rotarian now, our Rotary Club at our last meeting, one of the things that we were discussing were pupils who are home educated. So I've been in touch with a local youth development officer to see if they could facilitate some kind of Rotakids for children who are actually not in school. So they are thinking about that because that's another whole set of young people. And in the Highlands, there are quite a number of people, young children and young people who are home educated. So, you know, it's a good way to kind of get them. But in terms, it's a real logistic issue between the secure council platforms that we use and who we're allowed to invite in and all that kind of stuff. So difficult for us.
Thanks.
Thanks, Simon. Anybody else coming in? No. Okay, doke. So moving on to Sandy Elgin, please.
Thank you. Just listening to the comments made, and I think I would try to answer some of the questions by just giving you the experience I've had. I've been involved for 5 years now, and in that time I've been able to set up 6 Rotakids clubs. 2 of them are small schools, under 50 of a pupil population, and 4 of them are over 200. In the larger schools, what I've found is a very supportive head teacher and a very active class teacher or class teachers has been a way of promoting and developing Rotakids clubs. One head teacher, well, head teachers do meet and they have passed on information on Rotakids clubs, and I think from that has been very helpful in getting more set up. The first Rotakid club was set up. At the end of their first year, they produced a PowerPoint presentation. It included a video, and it lasts about 5-6 minutes. And having a copy of that, I found that very useful to go to the other schools to show the other head teachers and the pupils in turn what has been happening at that first club. And it's similar to what the comments have been made in terms of setting up a video, using that by way of promoting Rotakids. In fact, Rotakids promoting Rotakids rather than Rotary promoting Rotakids. And I found that's been very useful in terms of the teaching professionals and also the children themselves getting involved. I also just wanted to mention, you've mentioned through the video about face-to-face meetings. I've found in the past few weeks that several of the schools have been entertaining face-to-face meetings. I think probably with the COVID restrictions just easing a little bit. They've done their own risk assessments and they're happy enough for Rotarians to come in. Now, maybe that will spread, maybe it's in terms of the number of cases we have in the area, I don't know. But it was just to say, perhaps give a little glimmer of hope that perhaps face-to-face meetings can start fairly soon. So I think I'd just like to add that to the meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. I really appreciate that contribution. Christine McKenzie, please.
My battery is just about to go to 0, so apologies. My only comment was perhaps if you could, instead of, go to the head teacher and ask permission, but actually speak to the teachers of maybe P6 and 7 individually or together and see if you can engender their support. Because sometimes head teachers get lots and lots of requests and obviously they can't cope with everything. So maybe if you could just, because that's what in Nairn, we have 2 clubs. One ended up with 55 pupils from P4 and in the other school in Millbank, it was a class of 30. And both teachers were very keen, or not both, all 3 teachers were very keen to promote Rotakids. And so that was very successful. I haven't been able to get in touch with the other 2 schools in our area. The head teachers haven't replied. So I'll try some of your methods of introducing them to Rotakids. So thank you for this advice, and I'm sorry I'm just about to go.
Thanks, Christine. Christine, what club are you?
Nairn.
Nairn, sorry, I didn't catch that.
I
Okay,
was at the launch of both clubs, and it was a wonderful day.
Oh, that's great
Yes.
to hear. That's
And we,
fantastic.
Alistair presented the certificates of what what did we get presented with?
Well, whatever the inaugural certificates and
Aye,
all the rest of
it was very good, and then of course
charter, if you like.
COVID hit, and that was us. So
got a lot to answer for, but we can re-energize. But thanks,
yes,
Christine. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Cheers.
you. Simon,
Bye.
you wanted to come back in, I think, and then I've got Leonie from Kerrymuir, and then I think, sadly, I'm going to have to start winding things up, folks.
Yeah, hi, Sandy from Elgin. Please forgive my ignorance in this, but are you in Highland Council area? Or do you go into Moray?
Moray.
Moray, okay. So because so that maybe explain why your school's having face-to-face meetings, because schools in Highland are very much, we are directed as to what we can and can't do, and at the moment we can't have, unless it's for essential purposes, visitors into school. So that'll be why, Sandy, you know, your Murray's obviously a little bit further ahead of Highland, but that is good news, because it looks like that might be us next then, which would be great.
Yeah, I think there's still differences, isn't there, in different local authority areas, Simon? Yeah, down to the individual education authorities, I think. Yeah. Thank you for that, Leonie.
Yeah, thank you to everyone for interesting discussion. My question is one that has concerned me a little bit for a while. We have an Interact club that works with the 4th years, 5th years, some 6th years, as I understand it. If I set up a Rotary club with the primary 6, 7s, when the 7s go to high school, what happens to them? Do they disappear? Do they, that means no Rotary for the rest until they're senior pupils. What normally happens in those circumstances?
What we have done in Golspie in the past and in Dornoch, our 2 clubs, is that...
Alistair, sorry to interrupt you. Could you come closer to your microphone?
Sorry, what we've done in the past with that is we've had a junior Interact club for the in-between years.
Right.
And that has met either immediately after school or at lunchtime. In the bigger schools, Interact can quite often be absorbed into or uses the title for their charity operations and things as well. So it depends from school to school whether or not they restrict it to 5th and 6th year. But we found it quite difficult, because the other difference is that because Rotakids is part of the curriculum, it's not in competition with anything. So when they get to secondary school, it can be a hugely competitive thing to get the students to join different things, so that it gets diluted a bit. But those that are keen to keep it going, we'll do a junior Interact club, and they will eventually become the officers in the bigger club when they get to 4th, 5th, 6th.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Oh wow, I think I've not got any more questions. I can't quite believe it. What a brilliant discussion that's been. Great to see so much interest in it all. Fantastic. Alistair, I'm kind of conscious because people are messaging me as well in the chat, which is great. And one of the things that's become really obvious, if you've just got 2 or 3 minutes here, is that some people are really at the beginning of finding out about Rotakids and being given the sort of coordination job, and it's just how do you get started. Some are more experienced and are kind of building on all of that, already have the network connections and so on. I'm directing people to follow up with you directly, but I don't know if you want to end up with any hints and tips.
I'll give you a couple of essentials. You can't do it without the tools. So if you love being online and looking at websites, do that. But Alistair Robb and Alison Stedman both have stocks, I think, of Rotakids leaflets and that have been specifically made by one of our clubs up here, but are for use across the nation. And also you can get a handbook on how to run it. And when you've got those, one for yourself and one for each school, then it's much easier to have the discussion, because it's laid out in pretty simple terms how to run a meeting, what has to happen, and so on. And one thing that we haven't covered tonight is remember that all Rotarians that are working with children have to be certified, or whatever.
No.
What's the words? The certificate that allows them.
PVG.
PVG, thank you. That's why I've got a wife, to keep me right.
Alistair, just on that, before everybody starts to get certified, committed, or other things, then obviously, I don't know, Cass, do you want to say anything about compliance, because you're on the call? Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, I think Alistair has covered compliance very well, so that anyone who is working with children and Rotakids needs to be added to the PVG list, and your club will do that through Alistair Robb. What I would say though, Alistair in East Sutherland, is that the handbook on Rotakids is no longer available. I don't know what has happened, but it's not where it used to be. I'll look into it for you if you want. I was looking for it the other day.
I have a few copies, first come, first served.
Yeah.
That's with me.
But we can take it outside the meeting, but we need to do something maybe to get something up to date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
Okay.
Fantastic. So you're signposting people to resources, and are you happy for people to follow up directly with you as well, Alistair?
I'm always happy. Just remember, I'm a Luddite, so I struggle with all the technology, but if I can't do it, Anne or John or one of the other Rotakids officers and Interact officers will be pointed your way.
And your email address is in the district handbook.
It is indeed.
But you might want to put it in the chat just for ease for people, if they wanted to drop you a note and get signposted in the right direction.
You think I know how to use chat?
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
Right. I trust Fiona on this one, but I will, if I can, I will put your email address in the chat for everybody. How's that? There is no escape.
That'll be delightful. Most people avoid me, so it'll be nice to have some contact.
Well, unless there are any more questions, which there don't seem to be, what a lively discussion it's been, and we always do end these drop-in sessions on time. So can I just say a massive thank you to everybody for coming along, for contributing to tonight. Lots of positive feedback coming back with people getting lots of ideas. And the one thing that's been palpable throughout is the passion and enthusiasm around the opportunities that Rotakids presents for Rotary, and given what we are all looking to do in terms of re-energise post-COVID, strengthen our connections with partners, including schools and the community, and to connect in with young people of all ages. And what an amazing way to do that, and to have such a positive impact. And that's definitely been brought to the fore this evening. So thank you once again for everybody who has put in the preparation for tonight and supported that, and Alistair for pulling all of that together. That's been fantastic. So many thanks, and many thanks to everybody for attending, and see you all soon. The next I'll put out a reminder for the next DG forum, which I think is on the DG drop-in, sorry, 28th of October, which is a Thursday this time, because not everybody can do a Monday. So Thursday the 28th of October at 6:30 for the next session. And thank you again, everybody. Good night now.
Good night. Thank you, Heather.
Good night.
Thanks. Alistair.
Good night.
Bye,
Thank
folks.
you. Good night.
Bye-bye.